Okay, we got some different lighting in the cave. You can probably hear the rain in the background. One thing that's going to remain the same, unfortunately, right now is the echo. We'll figure out how to get the audio perfect in here later on once this place is fully built. Like I said before, this is all temporary right here. Okay, it's just to get the stuff off the shop floor, get that space open, and get everything stored in here for the winter. It should be indoors right now. And then, but as we go along, as we build this studio here, we will definitely have some professional input to come in and do up the lighting, the audio, make everything absolutely perfect and smooth for it to really get a roll. But anyway, this is it. This has been last year for a bit because I got to get up 4 o'clock in the morning tomorrow and take off and meet some friends of mine in the woods. I got to drive for an hour and a half. It's going to be good. So let's get right into sharing more people's voices. All right, Steve. Last year's season, you and the community were instrumental in helping me work through what I have known to come to believe was a very real encounter. In your latest video I viewed today, you stated that if you have that feeling of terror and dread, you need to leave immediately. What happened to me, I was 20 feet up at a tree stand and was in absolute sheer panic mode out of nowhere. I wanted to get down and run as fast as I possibly could, but though that maybe it was trying to get me down to make it easier to get me. I'm sure it could have gotten me either way, but I found it incredibly hard to think clearly. To be honest, I'm scared shitless to go hunting this year because both of my children will be accompanying me, but I'm going anyway. I hate yielding my passion and my land to these bastards. My question is that if we, or I, feel that intense, overwhelming emotion again, should we stay put and pray/speak against it? Or should we get out of our tree stands and leave immediately? I'll be honest, I hate these damn things. It was making it very clear to me that it was hostile and wanted me gone. The week before I had my encounter, my daughter was with me during a morning full moon sit. We could see extremely well and clearly. Heard bipedal footsteps not 12 yards in front of our stands in a clearing, but could see absolutely nothing. At first I thought it was a poacher, a trespasser, but quickly realized the steps were too heavy and that I should be able to see it. I thought about turning my light on, I thought about yelling, but in the end we just sat there and listened to it walk slowly deeper into my 50-acre woods. It's been almost a year and I still struggle with this, Steve. I truly hate it. But your advice has held me together in the past and I'm hoping it will do so again. Not sure this is helpful, but you can share it if you think it'll help someone else as well. I just need to know if it happens again, do we leave right then, or are we better to wait until sunrise? Best regards, God bless, Jason Brooks. You know what, Jason? You probably know what I'm going to suggest. I mean, obviously, I'm no expert, man. I'm no expert. But I do know that going with your gut instincts, your intuition, is the way to go for every decision in life. If you feel threatened in any way, just leave. Just leave. Watch your ass and leave, especially if you're bringing children, right? Children's a game changer, isn't it? With emotions and being safe and making decisions. Like me, I've done some crazy, almost irresponsible shit for many years, running around like a frickin' half a wild man doing shit that if I died, I died. If I didn't kind of attitude. But I understand. I don't have any children myself, but I do understand clearly all of my friends who have children have gotten across to me clearly that everything changes, and I get it. Especially with David Pilatus as well, when Dave was talking to me and he explained to me, back in the day when he had kids at home and the powers that be were threatening him, it made him cease to do certain things. Because he says when you have children, it's a game changer. I get it. So, good for you not succumbing to fear and not staying home or taking up video games and moving into a condo in the city, right? Don't give up, don't quit ever. But don't forget, successful predators do not warn you. Successful predators, you don't hear them. You're just gonna die. So, whatever this is going on your property where you're hunting, it's not trying to kill you. If it was trying to kill you, you'd be dead. possibly save your children a life-altering, terrifying experience. It's probably best just to get the hell out of there, man. But I'm pretty sure these things make it clear. They made it clear to me when I was looking for these things intentionally, and they scared the shit out of me. And that's the last time I looked for them intentionally, although I do. Your senses are on Mach 5 non-stop when you're in the woods after that, as you probably know. You know, you've probably got, what, 75% of your focus is on your task at hand, and 25% of your focus while you're busy is being aware of what's going on around you. The sounds, the smells, the feelings, your instinct, you're aware non-stop. You can't not be, it's impossible once you've accepted the fact that shit's going on, right? So, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm definitely not going to be the one to lead people to a bad experience in life, but for me, successful predators are going to kill me. There's going to be no warning. I'm not going to hear it. I'm not going to see it. You're just going to be dead. So, if something's making noise for you, if something's making their presence known to you, you're safe, obviously, right? But you're not safe from having to live a shit scared out of you and your world turned upside down. So if you want to avoid that, then yeah, get the hell out of there. Just leave. Just leave. Come back another day. Baby steps. Feel how it goes. If it feels comfortable, go for it. Hunt and do everything as normal. But when they make themselves present, their presence obvious and blatant to you, that's going to be your choice what you want to do with it. Do you want to push the envelope and have that encounter? Or do you want to just walk away from it and go home and say, see you later, leave me alone? Right? There you go. That's all I can give for advice for that particular scenario. Good luck and be safe out there, man. Don't quit ever, all right? Keep us posted on any information you acquire that you think that people may benefit from, all right? All right, here's another one. Unsure. Did I read this already? Did I just read one called Unsure? No, I don't think I did. All right, here we go. Mark this as read. I think there was another one titled Unsure. Steve, I've been watching your channel for a while. I'm unsure if this is anything or just my mind playing tricks on me. I was probably around 12 years old. I'm 39 years old now. I grew up hunting and fishing and still want to do these things today. I was upland bird hunting with family in the area of Hinton, Alberta. Been there. We had our Brittany Spaniel with us. We were hunting in an area full of cut lines. I went down one of these cut lines with our dog while the rest of the family I was hunting with were on a different one. I did not get too far down the cut line I was on when I suddenly stopped. That feeling I was being watched from the woods. I also had a feeling of uneasiness. I couldn't see our bird dog, so I called him back to me. He came back, and as soon as he did, I grabbed a hold of him and headed back up the cut line the way we came. This particular dog was very intelligent and would have done anything to protect any one of us in his family. He was still a fairly young dog on this occasion, so I'm not sure if he didn't sense what I felt, or if he was just enjoying being out in the woods hunting with his people. Anyways, we got back to the rest of our party as quickly as we could. There was a second experience I had years later with two of my sons. Again, not sure if one of these beings or some other campers playing a trick on us. I was probably in 2017 or 18. I was headed out to the area I elk hunt in. I no longer live in Canada. I was born and raised there. When I got married, my wife and I were in Alberta when I finished trade school. When I graduated, we moved to the US. She's from there. Anyways, back to what I was saying. We got to my elk hunting area later than I would have liked. Got the tent set up and all our gear in the tent and crawled in to go to sleep. My two boys who were with me were around 8 and 9 years old at the time. As we were falling asleep, I could hear vehicles pulling into the campground, driving around the road, then leaving. Finally, one vehicle decided to stay in the campground. Besides us, they were the only ones there. As I dozed off, I could hear some people who had stopped walking to the restroom as I was right next to our campsite. I'd just fallen asleep when I was woken up to one of the guy wires on our tent being pulled. This wasn't the same thing as an animal or a person walking through our campsite and bumping the guy wire. The part of the tent this wire was connected to physically moved. All I had with me in the tent was a can of bear spray, so I reached for it, removed the safety, and waited. Nothing else happened that night except a huge windstorm. Maybe what happened was someone from the other camp being a dick and playing a trick on us, I'm not sure. This is why I wrote this email, to possibly get some perspective on these incidents. There's a third incident I can't quite get my head around. It happened in the exact same area as the one I wrote about with my two sons. I was solo archery elk hunting in the same area as we camped. I got there in the afternoon. As I drove into the campsite, I saw it was crowded. There was only one spot left. Pulled my truck in, grabbed my bow, and walked down the hill through the woods to a clearing. I should mention there was a smaller lake in this clearing. I walked around the lake looking for elk or any sign. Found a lot of sign, but no elk. I also found a lot of cattle sign. Cows are grazing in this area as well. As I walked around the south side of the lake, the wind swirled and I caught a whiff of something very stinky. There are no cattle in the area this time, and no elk. There are bears in the area, but I hadn't really seen any bear sign. I quickly knocked an arrow on my bowstring and became hyper-vigilant, straining to hear or see anything. I didn't have the same feeling I did on the cut in Alberta all those years ago. I still knew I should leave. At this part of the lake, there was a small river, so bow in hand, I crossed a tree which had fallen across the river and made my way back to my truck. After crossing the river, I kept looking back to make sure I wasn't being followed. Again, maybe all these times it's just been my mind playing tricks on me, or maybe not. Hope you might be able to give me some perspective on this. I still hunt and fish, although I have found every excuse in the book to not go camping with my family after the incident with the tent. Thanks for hearing me out. My name is Jeff. Because I'm currently in law enforcement in a small community, please don't use my name. Feel free to share this if you feel it's anything. If you don't think it needs to be shared, then don't. Either way, it's fine. You betcha it needs to be shared, Jeff, because you're probably 100% not alone. And especially you being in law enforcement, I'll guarantee you've been versed with your sixth sense, your gut instincts, your intuition, right? It seems to be those words seem to be some of the main ones you can anticipate hearing in every single one of these videos, right? Gut instincts, intuition, sixth sense. I can't say anything about those incidents, man. You're the one there. You and your gut knows what went on. One thing I can say for certain is, and thousands of people listening right now can agree with, I'm sure, is when shit's going down directly because of these beings, you know. There's no question about it, and you're not going to think your mind's pulling tricks. It's going to be too intense, too terrifying, too uneasy, and it's going to create some shit-eating anxiety. There's no questioning about it. It's not a good feeling at all, right? But anyway, go with your instincts. You don't want to go camping with your family, take your family around those places. Don't take them. That's your instincts, that's your intuition, your gut telling you not to. Listen to it, don't do it, right? Until your instincts, your natural given talents, skills tell you otherwise, right? Thanks for emailing in, man. And be safe out there while you're dealing with hurting people as a law enforcement officer. I shouldn't say hurting people, you know what I mean. I couldn't do it what law enforcement does. I couldn't deal with the grief with human beings. It'd be a tough thing to do. Here we go, the event that may have defined my life. All right. Hey everybody. I've heard people's experiences, empathy, and sympathy expressed from those having the experience, and the writer seems to convey the same from Sabe. I have belief that I've experienced these ideas in my encounters. I think this encounter may show that their actions are not always over the top. This is how it all went down. Imagine 3 11-year-old boys on their first backpacking trip that was adult-free. 10 to 12 days of adventure, freedom, and education. I know I'll never forget. 11 years old? 1977 or 78, my dad finally agreed to drop us off at our destination. Later I found out that Dad had other fears that had only a little to do with our age and experience. The first 8 days went off as expected. Fun, deer in camp nearly all the time. A short 1-mile hike would position a boy to run with large herds of elk. And of course, the conversation of good friends. As day 9 began, the first thing we noticed was the few deer that were around were on the move, seemingly tense. No elk were seen past morning hours. That day had a feeling that differed greatly from previous days. As the day became evening, odd occurrences began to be undeniable. What I've learned later to be tree knocks began. Along with distant vocalizations. There's some spelling in here. Not terrifying at that point. As the sun went down, these became closer and louder. Again, being boys, it was easy to get distracted by small problems. The noises and disturbances rooted in a 300 to 500 yard area. They seemed to be halfway up the mountainside to our northwest. The vocals were powerful enough to draw the eye to the approximate area where the source was. We never really seen what seemed a small group. A small group of 4 maximum, but I knew even that deer, elk, cougars, and grouse do not team up to terrify young humans. At least I've never heard of this behavior. Soon, large rocks and small landslides would occur between loud grunts, whistles, and language-like conversations. The fear and lack of clear thought had us making mistake after mistake. Very simply put, all this ended in one immediate action. They were just gone. Very little was discussed between us. We had 3 fires going and burnt most of our wood. The flashlights were now dead, and every single sound caused an adrenaline rush. Day 9 was a carbon copy of the day before, quiet most of the daylight hour, and as night fell, their method of operation remained much the same. One big difference was one or more would close the distance a bit, then retreat back. The whistles and Bigfoot talk was constant for a time. Then fear, like I've never known, rushed upon us. The look on my friends' faces was disturbing. Helpless may be the word. We were helpless. No vehicle, no weapons, and of course no communications, no way out. That degree of terror showed us that we had no choice but to take what came our way, and come our way it did. Around midnight, heavy footsteps could be heard coming toward us from behind our tents. The confusion on the hill intermittently continued, and I had hoped maybe our ride out had arrived. Nope. After a short time, I gained some control and stood beside my tent. From firelight, I could see what looked like something was in a tree behind the tents, large yellowish eyes. At that moment, the terror in my mind and body increased greatly. It physically hurt. I could not breathe, nor could I utter a single word or muster a scream. I was prey. After a few seconds, I could walk backwards toward the main fire. After several minutes of calming down and nearly being sick, I got the words out. There's something in the tree behind my tent. I was reminded there were no trees behind the tents for 60 yards except little 3 and 4 foot saplings. Fear, this time partly of my own making, entered me again. Not fear as debilitating as the previous, but still sickening. As before, the experience was suddenly over. The night was so quiet. So, did we scout for tracks? No. Did we walk the hillside in search of evidence? No. We stayed pretty much to ourselves. Yes, slowly the deer began to show. Only a small number though. A few hours later I could hear an engine coming our way. Yep, that's the scout coming down the Jeep trail. We had camp broke 5 minutes before Dad got there. Big mistake. It started raining. Hard. We quickly loaded the Scout, F6, and left. I think that was a typo. Problem was, there were streams running down the slick, extremely steep trail. After 400 yards, we had slid into a tree and gotten sideways a few times. We had to stay. I'll put a lid on this by saying these things. A, from that point on, fear was handled differently by me than before. Still to this day, an odd sense of peace and amazing ability takes over when fear is present in me. I become very methodical. B, after hearing so many experiences here, I know thing didn't have to work out so well. Terrifying, near violent actions could have been taken on us boys. Was there empathy? Was there an understanding that we human young and were stuck, and even Savvy couldn't change that? I wish I could have tried mind speak. Hindsight. Well, there it is. in all its faded glory. I truly believe that the timing of this encounter was key as far as the way I handled fear, and it certainly taught me that what we know is not all there is. This is what it is. I hope my words will help lighten dark space in someone's life. I hope that my words will help light a dark space in someone's life. Be strong, people. In the very end, I believe we will be the ones in the know. Thanks for the honesty and lack of judgment, Steve. This is a necessary step in understanding these creatures and our involuntary interactions. They seem to know the type of person you are and act accordingly. Oh yeah, as far as the odor that accompanies Sabe, there wasn't any noticeable. Rod Schrader, Union Gap, Washington. Thanks, Rod. Thanks for that email. When was that? Back in 77, 78. I guess back in those days, it was okay to set a herd of 11-year-old kids out in the woods for a week or 10 days. Not too many people do that these days, would they? But you know, looking back, when I was 11 or 12, I was making my mother set the alarm for 5 in the morning. And I was out the door in the pitch black with a little bow and arrow, and I would go running off on the side of the mountain into the timber, and I'd be gone all day. I must have drove for frickin' batshit crazy. But I was quite capable at that time, right? So I'm sure everybody could be capable at that age if they were taught to be. Not too many are taught that way anymore, are they? Thanks for sending that in, man. Interesting experience. Obviously life-changing, right? Fully fed up. All right, let's hear all about it. Mahalo, Steve. I've had multitudes of experiences with these powerful predators on 2 different continents and a couple of islands. I came up as a boy in Kansas, Iowa, and Missouri. I had family that I spent time with every year in Minnesota, Nebraska, and South Dakota. I've been in every state in the Union multiple times. I've had these predators near my person while hunting, fishing, working, hiking, and camping. Yet I have no extended knowledge of the Sabe. In my 54 years on this planet, I know only the experiences I have had with these creatures since the age of 9. The truth from others that speak what they know only in safe ears, and the perpetual lies of United States politicians and their machine. Knowledge, truth, and ancestral wisdom is not passed on in the society I was a part of as a boy and young man, but has always been important to me. The sharing of those sacred pillars of tribal, familial, and individual integrity is paramount to the survival of us all if we are to be true stewards of this beautiful home. Every encounter I've had with this massive killer, I have had alone, and most in remote places. I would estimate 70% were in the dark at close distance, while I was what I consider well-armed and capable of handling normally encountered opportunistic predators, i.e. black bear, grizzly bear, Kodiak bear, cougar, prison rat, 2-bit killers, and corrupt blank enforcement agents. I've feared none of those, nor am I afraid of the dark. It's a very comfortable place for me until the Sabe are near. I'm afraid of these powerful and massive animals. They have, throughout my life, inserted themselves into a personal space, whether by quietly stalking me in groups and disrupting fasts, quest for vision, tracking and stalking game for my sustenance, recreational enjoyment of my most appreciated places on this earth. I've been shocked nearly out of my wits while reading in my skivvies at night by a screaming with such intensity and volume from short distances as to cause my insides to vibrate and my ears to ring as if with automatic gunfire. It actually knocked my 105-pound red-nosed pit bull, Luke Sidewalker, out of his lawn chair. They have stolen or eaten my best dogs, and still I would spend as many as 8 months at a time living outdoors in remote and timbered places that are the medicine for my spirit. My last 2 sets of encounters were so frightening in their nature and so sickened by my own cowardice that I've spent only a minuscule fraction of my normal time sleeping outside, and that usually with many others near. If they wanted to smash me up in Shasta County, California, they could have. If the children of many Sabe families that live near Wechpeck in Humboldt County, California wanted to eat me, they easily could have. Lord knows they tormented me as I was alone, though well-armed and in my mind capable. They have followed me, paced me, surrounded me, and stole my game, and wrecked my smokehouse with a winter's worth of salmon stolen. has become a matter of self-respect and respect for others, and the truth that I've learned to understand what I can do to protect my loved ones, both with knowledge and craft. I detest malignant sorcery to the depth of my essence, and they stink of it, as if it were rotting them. I do not fear to their commonly used scent, but to their true nature. The constant fear-mongering and abduction of innocent individuals and children, and livestock and pets, along with their obtuse predatory pack behavior, quite angers me. I've been hunting and fishing alone since I was young. I was well trained and well suited for it. My grandfather was a solitary, quiet man with a large family and very little time to himself. He is one that passed on his feelings about how important it was to become comfortable being alone with oneself. I'm a firm believer. Now, I find that I'm rarely alone, even in remote places. Now, I am bothered with the feeling of these bastards' eyes on me. Even in the small Northern California town I live, they are everywhere. I'm a former Marine and was well trained at that. If it is prey or preyed upon, I pray that I can find the help necessary to master these assholes. I'm not a menu. Human-like faces to draw on the curious or careless, we serve as training subjects. Delicacies and sport, not to be fooled. They hate us. It seems that once there was a moratorium on killing or snatching us, hence the hatred. Now, they eat our game and waste it with no concern for conservation. They are not the keepers of the forest, except in comparison to the greedy fuckers that mow it down for cardboard and plywood. They are malignant and dangerous, peace-wrecking abomination, I think. I also think that a couple of 3-inch, 1-ounce, 12-gauge saw-buts to that same human-like face when they terrorize and prey upon us may pique the instinct for survival of generations of these beings to come. Is it come to that? Is there then no possibility of communicating to them that they are free to feed on corrupt politicians and teachers with mouths full of lies and hearts that hate children? Free to feed on the rich and the prisoners of this planet, the rapists, the pedophiles, and the slavers? They are free to feed on the war pigs and the genocidal devils, the evil sellouts, and the pituous power whores. That's not good grub in large enough quantities. If that be the case, and you have the knowledge to speak it as truth, then they use us for sport. And I volunteer not as bait, but as a killer. I'm fed up. Please forgive my ignorance in whatever form it appears, and my passion diatribe. It only suits to betray my composure and effectiveness. Semper Fidelis. As I believe some of the things I've said may cause pain to some of my strange but still living relatives, please withhold my name for the time being. I have more specific encounters on the way, and I will warn them. They have always thought me a kook or a liar, so I stopped talking with them. They unfortunately are supporters of the fodder for the pedophile child-killing machine, strict Catholics. They'll reap the just rewards of thoughtless automaton. Most likely heaven. Ha! Thank you. You've garnered my utmost respect and trust. That is the first time in 54 years this has been done without a solid foundation of time spent with an individual. My best to your family. I think you said you're gonna I can't read your name, right? Please withhold my name. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that email, man. Sounds like you're pissed to me, and rightfully so. It also sounds like you are First Nations descent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously what you shared sounds familiar through many of our First Nation or Aboriginal people in North America who shared here as well. So you may be right, right? You may be right. They certainly do toy with us, and numerous Native communities have all reported the same reactions, the same thing when the Sabe, the Sasquatch are around you. Frickin' keep the women and the children locked up inside. And that still goes on today. That's fact. Today, in numerous First Nations communities, including the one I just lived beside for 15 or 16 or 17 years. And coincidentally, I live beside, right next door to another Native community right now today, and 2 salmon rivers. But anyway, Do they toy with us? You're damn right they do. They go out of their way to scare the living shit out of us and torment us nonstop. Why? I haven't a freaking clue. I don't know why. I don't know why they don't just annihilate us. I haven't a clue. But I was wondering the same thing. That goes the same with how much wildlife does the same thing that could annihilate us. Like here's an example. I always wonder like killer whales, orcas, killer whales, call them whatever you want. Those things are the most ruthless, efficient killers of everything in the ocean. They've even been reported ripping into and shredding moose. They're swimming across saltwater channels up north. They figured out how to blow seals off icebergs. Right off my hometown of Victoria, you can Google it on YouTube, search on YouTube. This shows one launching one 100 feet into the air, a seal, toying with it, and terrorizing it, training their young how to kill it. They've intentionally cut off and drowned gray whale calves from their mothers, and only rip the tongues out of them while the body sinks and floats away to go off and be wasted and die. Killer whales are ruthless, but they don't mess with us, with humans. I don't understand it. Right? We get 3 or 4 killer whales will rush at an iceberg to blow one little seal off that doesn't weigh as much as a human being, just to get that one little morsel. When meanwhile, pods of killer whales will swim around somebody on a paddleboard. I've had them all around my boat when I'm anchored up paddle fishing alone, and obviously these things could dummy me any second they decided to. Flip the boat, annihilate it, crush it, and pluck me out of there like a sardine out of a can. But they don't. Why not? Why don't they? I don't get it. Wolves. Wolves attack and kill and eat everything straight across the board, including grizzly bears. When they decide to, a large enough pack will kill a grizzly bear. I've watched 2 wolves non-stop trying to kill a grizzly cub in the alpine with its mother. Big grizzly too. They do not give a shit. But on average, I mean, they have killed a handful of humans, but on average, they avoid us like the plague. They want nothing to do with us. Why? I don't get it. They've got the nose, they've got the skills, they've got the nighttime eyesight. A pack of wolves could absolutely annihilate hundreds of hunters every year, easily and get away with it. But they don't. Why not? I don't get it. There's a lot of things that go on this planet with various species of game animals, wild animals, that just do not annihilate us when they could so easily, and I don't understand it myself. It's quite confusing. It's very confusing. Why these things don't annihilate us, I haven't a clue. Obviously they could. They could do some serious freaking damage. One could do some amazing damage to a small rural community in a matter of hours overnight in the middle of the night, easily. Why don't they have a clue? A lot of people are going to have the spiritual answer for that for sure. We're God's children. There's a law in place. They're the fallen angels, Nephilim, on and on. Maybe it's true. It sure is sliding towards that direction, for sure. Is it not? As you're trying to listen to every single little bit of input from around the frickin' compass while you seek out that missing piece for your puzzle. And you gotta admit it, the biblical story sure is sounding like it fits, right? Make sure you email us more, right? I want to hear more from you for sure. Share with us what you got, what you seen, what you experienced, what you know. Share it. Please share it all. All right? We want to hear it here. Okay? Follow up. Hold on. Mark, this is red. Follow up on my Florida skunk ape encounter. Had another encounter also in Florida. That sucks. Hi Steve, it's William Cody Claggett again. You shared my story of my encounter with a skunk ape, Florida Sasquatch. Years later, as a young teenager after my first encounter, myself and 4 friends wanted to go to a place I'd found while hiking in North Fort Myers. In North Fort Myers, there is an old abandoned drive-in movie theater. Behind this old theater is dense forest with an old forgotten about slave plantation. I found it during the day, and the whole area, even the daylight, is weird. You just feel you're being watched. So I told my buddies about this place, and somehow we decided to drive out there at night to go explore. We got there, jumped the fence behind the theater, and immediately all of us froze dead in our tracks. There were whoops, banging, tree snaps, and this feeling we were surrounded by several predators. like we were being stalked. Then we heard a loud roar like a bear would make. We didn't even talk to one another. We just all took off full speed back to the car. I'm convinced there are a family of Sabe, probably spelled wrong, living there. After watching all your videos, the sounds and the feelings well experienced lead me to believe we're in a place we weren't meant to be. I fear if we would have continued that something bad may have happened to one if not all of us. That sounds scary as shit. Well, it sounds like you guys went there to intentionally freak yourselves out anyway. Be careful what you ask for, right? That's some creepy, spooky thing to do, man. Who knows what's living there. Scary evening. Alright, here we go. Creatures of the night vanished before my eyes, August 2005, Toutle Lake, Washington. Hi Steve, my name is Jane Sean Harmon, loud and proud. I'm 54 years old now and live in Vancouver, Washington. I had the opportunity to have had 3 encounters where they're awesome but elusive hairy men, not to mention the wood knocking when I was logging for Weyerhaeuser from 91 after the United States Navy until 94. Just to give you a rundown of my fear level, which I only fear God himself, I have to start my story from my last encounter to the beginning. Please pay attention. Thank you. I need to let everyone understand that not having a fear level is due to my 09 diagnosis from the VA of being bipolar #1. Without meds, I can be the biggest fucking asshole anyone has met, and the hairy man know that. I have a feeling the hairy man called me the madman of Mount St. Helens. I have thrown some serious tantrums in the woods, not knowing of my mental condition until years later. So now that we have my medical history out of the way and noted, I can invite you into my mind and a journey that most look at me as if I'm mentally ill. I never said I was not, LOL. Steve, it was August 2005 in Toutle, Washington on a full moon night at the entrance through a Forest Service gate to the sediment dam. My girl and I a couple days prior went through there to get to a small community called Silver Lake. As we were walking through, she said, "Jim, you don't want to come through here without a weapon." I said, "Why?" She just looked at me, and so I acknowledged her, knowing she has lived there her entire life. It was around 11:30 p.m. and 75 degrees and a full moon. I left my girl's house on a bike, headed to Silver Lake, which is about 3 miles. But if I take a shortcut through the sediment dam, I can cut 1/3 off. So I turned up just past the substation, which is a power station. I got off my bike and walked the remaining distance to the gate, which the spur road was compacted with fir needles, so you could not hear me. Once I reached the gate, I also had an 80-pound rut pack as well. I picked the bike up and lifted over. As I went to sit it down, I heard a thump, thump. I have to stop here. One week earlier, on a pitch black night, about 3 miles as the crow flies, I heard the exact same sound. This time it was higher in the tree because I felt the impact of what I thought was a cougar. Something sounded different, but I was not sure. My girl was sleeping in the truck. Sorry, I'll tell you what I was doing. I remember, I am homeless and have no job and living up in the high country by day and the low at night. I was getting fuel from an excavator for my truck. That is how me and the Miss Jenny were able to fund our fuel. I'm sorry for taking the fuel. As I walked down the freshly laid spur driveway on a slight grade, whatever it was hit the ground and covered 50 yards in about 3 to 4 full strides, and then laid down. My figure of speech for fucking fast. I took it as a large cat and continued, but now I'm on the offensive by getting very loud and boisterous to sound big and aggressive and in control of my voice. I still got the fuel, but at all times looking at the position where it lay down and kept talking and letting it know, if you want fucking trouble, you found it. 5 gallons of fuel and somewhat steep grade, walking up the spur road to my truck was the longest walk of my life. That time as I drove away, the hair on my bald head stood straight up, and the wicked sinister sensation running down my spine. It was like sliding into a home plate and hearing "safe." I was relieved and hugged my Miss Jenny when she woke up. I said nothing to her about what I heard. Back to the substation. When I heard the thump thump, I looked up, and there was this at least 8-foot figure with his back to me, about 25 yards, with high bushes up to his shoulder blades. As I was fixated at what I was witnessing, I felt paralyzed in a relaxed state of mind, but was excited like a kid in a candy store at what I was seeing. Not no more than an eye blink, another one stepped out from behind a pump house up on the spur road. This is where I went in a state of O-F me, quietly. Steve, you read an email one time from this man who described what he saw. I looked over at my now lady and said, that is exactly what I saw. At hearing that, it justified and gave me true sanity, knowing I was not seeing things. Thank you, Steve, for this outlet you have given for the people. As I stayed focused on the new arrival, he was about 6.5 feet tall. He whipped his head, and these, what I think were dreadlocks, whipped in the moonlight. It was like they were on a stage. They were lit up like the 4th of July, not even knowing I was there. When the little one turned his head to communicate to his partner, I was in shock and excited at the same time. It is burned into my hard drive and won't go away. He had a high hairline with dreads, I think, and the blackest alienated eyes with dark tan skin that did not look human at all. I guarantee we don't share DNA with those boys. They were some rough-looking badass mother effers. Steve, the little one, made a head nod to his partner and a hand gesture straight ahead of them. They shook their heads and walked away from me, and then the unfucking believable thing that happened right in front of me. As they walked away, they disappeared through what looked like water, and then my body relaxed, and I was able to pick up my bike back up, and I did an about face, and that is when the hair in my bald head came alive. Steve, I was 30 yards from what I don't know. I believe it was a portal. I think they were the same ones a week prior. One more shocker for you and the people, Steve. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, I had a dreadful dream that left a lasting impression in my head. He was the same face I saw in my dream. Steve, I have a few more, and I'm going to let this one soak in. And I'll email you again when I can take you into the Tootle Valley where I used to log, and at about sunset, we will make contact within 5 to 10 minutes of showing up. These ones are different. Thank you for what you have done for us, the people. God bless you and Sarah. Thank you, my friend, loud and proud. Holy shit. Okay. First off, you make sure you email me back. When you email me, you email everybody here, all right? So make sure you email us back. And I want to hear it all. I want to hear everything. I want to hear everything. All right? You're not the first person to describe a portal, shimmering wall of water, however it's going to be described. You're not the first one. People I trust with my life have shared the same. I know of a handful of First Nations people in British Columbia who all have spoke of various places, one near Squamish, one near Lillooet Lake. They know where these portals have typically been on the sides of these mountains. Isn't it amazing? How do you make that shit up? I mean, how many people just wake up in the morning, especially First Nations, and go, oh, Jay, what am I going to make up today? I think I'm going to make up something, we'll call it a portal. Do you know what I mean? There's crazy shit going on. There's crazy shit going on. I want to know. I want to know it all. And so does everyone else, man. Just make sure you email us back with what you know, what you've seen, and we'll get it out, we'll share it with everyone right away, all right? Crazy ass experience, man. A crazy ass thing to witness and see. For what I understand, I don't think it's advisable to go jumping into one of those portals. If you follow Dave Glass' channel, I'm sure you probably figured that out as well after listening to a lot of shit that he's got to share, right? Especially with his missing 401 The Hunted, one of his latest movie. I think that one explains a lot too, right? Anyway, crazy. This lifetime's a crazy ride. Mark, this is red. Hey Steve, my name is Raymond Sr., about 25 years ago, I was camping back from hunting and wasn't able to kill anything. I was coming back from hunting, wasn't able to kill anything. So I started looking for deer signs. I eventually found and tracked down a nice deer track. Followed it for to a 20-yard opening where I'd put down my stand. I was and currently working second shift at the time, and to be ready to hunt after work, I'd walk appropriately a half a mile and fall asleep at my stand. By falling asleep in the woods, I figured that I wouldn't leave any scent for any bucks. At some point in the morning, before the sun was rising, and I heard something tearing up the trees and shit, and would wake me up every morning. So at that point, I always thought the buck smelled me. This was happening every morning for a week straight. Once I killed a deer, I stopped sleeping in the woods. So my question is, would a buck return every day for a week and tear up shit at the same time? The location is Greenwood, Louisiana. That sounds a little odd, man. To be honest, I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue what you heard. The intensity of it was shit being thrown. I haven't a clue, man. It's too vague a description to me, but no. Did a deer tear it up and make sounds? No. I don't know what happened. It sounds a little alarming, though. Hope I read that smooth. Alright, let's go with one more. My first encounter. Hi Steve, thank you for giving us a safe place to share experiences. You can use my name if you'd like. My name is Christopher Budweiser. A little bit about myself, 37 years old, currently residing in Bellingham, Washington. I spent the majority of my life solo hiking and backpacking in California and as well in the Cascades, Washington. I spent many hours on the trails in remote places by myself. My first encounter, to me, is fairly lame, but I'm very grateful that it happened, as now I'm certain they exist, whatever they are. This took place in my mid-20s and happened in the least likely place. I lived in the small town of Robbins, California, and would regularly ride my bike out to the river as exercise. This particular day, a summer day, and in the upper 90s, I was riding my bike alongside the Feather River on a farming road listening to music on headphones. I was cruising along when I looked up the road ahead of me. I'm not sure of the distance, maybe 300 feet, and I noticed something rolling on its back on the dirt road, like a dog scratching its back on the ground. It was much bigger than a dog, and at first I thought a bear. I quickly remembered where I was, and that bears are very uncommon in this area, but still possible. I stopped my bike, pulled on my headphones, and watched this thing rolling around for not more than 10 or 15 seconds, when it then suddenly stood up on two legs. The thing was huge, easily 7 to 8 feet tall. It was covered in hair. It was an orange color. I compared it to an orangutan color. It was ripped, with its muscles visible through its hair, and was fairly thin. I froze. Steve, I'm 6'2" and just over 200 pounds, and I'm not scared much. I have heard of being frozen with fear, and I was frozen with fear. The hair in my arm standing up, I could not move. This thing, after standing up and dusting itself off, just walked right off the road into the trees and underbrush along the road. I could hear it breaking branches as it was walking through. It did not notice me at all as I stood there frozen. I don't know for how long I stood there frozen, listening to this thing walk away, but when I finally felt safe, I started to head back home, very slowly, and looking over my back the whole time. After all the hours I spent hiking, I would have never thought I would have seen one in the location I did. Remote, a little, but I would have always figured I would have encountered out backpacking or somewhere more remote. I shared this story among friends and family. Typical response is I get laughed at, and not many people believe me. I know what I saw, and it wasn't human or any animal I've ever seen. I do have another encounter that takes place in Bellingham that I'll share at a later date that myself and my wife experienced. I do not let these encounters hold me back from my love of hiking, but now I'm just a little more aware of my surroundings and pay extra attention to that sixth sense, feeling something is off. I know they exist. Thank you for all you do, Steve. I'll attach a picture of the approximate location of my encounter. Happy trails, Christopher. All right, man. It's a Google shot. It's got it looks like farm country, and it has the GPS coordinates. We don't need it. We don't need the location. But I'm glad you emailed us and shared that. I got off your chest, and I'll tell you what. If you have the email address of any of those people that laugh at you and you share that experience honestly with them, send them some freaking videos from this channel. Send them this one. Send it to them. And let them have a listen to all these people through me. And then see how funny it is. See how much they laugh, right? There's not very, it's not too common that laughter is a result of listening to these emails from all these honest people, right? Yeah, anyway, that's it. I'm out of here, 4 in the morning. And I'll be back. And as usual, the inboxes will be jam loaded from the people, getting their voices heard, and I'll share it. All right, here we go.